We live in a society.
Hello, I'm Ryan Donato.
Hello, welcome back to another Hard Review, and I'm here to talk about one of my most anticipated movies of the year. We have Joker, Folie, Deux. I don't know why I always have to say it like that. The first Joker movie I rewatched right before watching the new one, and I love it. I think when it came out, I was at like a 4 out of 5. And then over time, I was like, wow, this is just really great. And it sticks with me. And it's one that I like to rewatch a lot. So I think I'm giving it a 5. Because Joaquin Phoenix is absolutely fantastic in this movie. Is it my Joker? No. Is it even like a top 3 Joker for me? No. But this is an interesting, different interpretation of the character that I really appreciate. I will say I don't have a lot of faith in Todd Phillips as a writer, maybe as a director, because I do love some of his movies. Like, I'm a huge fan of The Hangover, and the subsequent like sequels are good in their own way. I like Due Date, I like War Dogs, I like Old School. But Todd Phillips is definitely like a douchebag. Like, he's a douchebag director. Like, he's up there with like Michael Bay. Like, he makes the Michael Bay of comedies. So when he goes and does this movie, and it's a little bit of Taxi Driver, a little bit of King of Comedies, so you lose writing points for that. Also, certain things that don't really sit right, like the whole Zazie Beetz plotline is kind of weird. Not to mention that all the Batman connections are like, we've complained a million times about how many times do we have to see Bruce Wayne's parents get killed, and we see it once again. Jesus Christ. And it's interesting because, you know, one of the cool things about Joker is the fact that he is born out of Batman. Like, he is there. Batman's villains are there because there is Batman. If there wasn't Batman, there wouldn't be Batman villains. Like, there was just the mob, and then Batman comes up to fight the mob, and then all these other villains come out inspired by Batman, but in the opposite way. Kind of like the Force in Star Wars, how great powerful light comes great and powerful dark. So having this interpretation of the movie and the characters be like, oh no, it's the opposite now. So Batman was inspired by the Joker, kind of. Like, the Joker's hate and, you know, riots inspired the death of Bruce Wayne's parents, which inspires Batman. But also, this isn't entirely new territory. I mean, that's what we did with Jack Nicholson's Joker, right? But I digress. The final 30 minutes of that movie is absolutely amazing. Like, the moment he goes on the Robert De Niro, Franklin Murray talk show is fantastic. And everything after that's wonderful. I love the note that they leave us off on the end of the movie. I always said about this movie that I hate fans of the movie, even though I am one. I think that the people that are haters of it are also silly. Like, I think both sides of reactions to this movie are overblown. But like I said, Phoenix is great. The movie visually looks really cool, like kind of unlike anything else that we've seen in the superhero genre, which is really awesome because especially 2019, that's a year where we are overstuffed with superhero movies. And especially a subgenre of superhero movies, supervillain movies. We had the Venom movie the year prior, which was bad. Joker is a pretty big success. It made $1 billion, so of course we need a sequel. Now, I don't know if this movie would have gotten a sequel if it didn't make $1 billion. Like, I don't think this was something that was like begging for a sequel to be made about it. That's pretty apparent in seeing the movie finally. So this movie is a lot about recapping the first movie, analyzing what went on and interpreting that movie going forward. Because a lot of this movie, we're in prison because of what Arthur did in the first movie, and then we're going to court and we're really analyzing everything that he did in the first movie. So that's really my first big complaint, is I would rather have moved forward and saw where we took this character next, and maybe saw it in maybe a little bit more of a traditional Joker setting, like maybe Joker becomes a crime boss or whatever. But that's not what we get here. It's a lot of like, okay, is Joker crazy? Is Joker a second personality and he has split personality disorder? I didn't care for much of any of that stuff, so that was kind of a bummer for me. My big thing that made me really excited for this movie was Lady Gaga. I'm a pretty big fan of hers. I took my girlfriend to the concert in Miami a few years ago and it got rained out in the third act, so I still don't know what happened. But she's an awesome artist. I love a lot of her music, and I think her acting's really great too. I love her in A Star Is Born, and I think she's underrated in House of Gucci. So seeing her here, taking on the Harley Quinn character and doing a different interpretation, because I love what Margot Robbie did with the character, and I love Birds of Prey, I love The Suicide Squad. So seeing a different version of this character in this different type of universe is cool. And again, I'm going to go back to that word interpretation, because this interpretation of Harley Quinn was interesting and good in its own way, but it, again, just like with Joker, it's not my Harley Quinn. Also, her name name was Lee Quinn throughout a lot of the movie. They called her Lee, and it's like, okay, we know the name of the fucking character. Can we just, like, I get it, you don't want to say the name, but come on. I thought she was good in this. I don't really think that she got enough time to shine. I really want to rewatch this movie because it'll really recontextualize a lot of things about it. But because we spend a lot of time in court and it's because we spend a lot of time in prison, we don't get to spend too much time with Harley Quinn. And they do change up the character quite a bit. Like, there's certain things about her, like, regular origin that are present, but a lot of big swings are taken with her. Some of the big swings I didn't really care. Like, they were trying to build an amount of intrigue with what her character was up to. I just really couldn't care less. I wouldn't say the movie was boring, but it was just kind of expected in a lot of ways. Even the ending of this movie, which I feel like is supposed to be like a huge shock, was less of a huge shock. It's more of a huge shock the more I sit on it, because for Todd Phillips to take that character in that direction and do that thing with it was super duper interesting, and I love what it says. Outside of the movie, it does definitely feel like a response to the first movie. My buddy said something perfect about it, where there's plenty of like sequels that are basically just recontextualizing the first one. Like the author saying, the first movie was about this, guys, and you kind of missed that point, but here I'm really gonna hammer it home. And this movie does that as well. Whereas I kind of wish we would have stuck with the more fantastical, maybe not fantastical, but like exaggerated version where we kind of celebrate the concept of a villain movie more than it felt like a movie about, you know, shootings and serial killers, and it was really serious and dark. And yeah, it's very serious and dark, don't get me wrong. Like Joker, that's what this version of the Joker is supposed to be, but there's a certain amount of whimsy that comes with the end of the first film that we just don't get to experience here. And I get it, because too many people watch that first movie and were like, wow, the Joker is so cool. Literally me, you know, Mondays be like, but for the good about this movie, besides the two lead performances, which were absolutely fantastic, I don't think they were better. Like Joaquin Phoenix wasn't better in this one than he was in the first one. But the movie looks visually gorgeous. I got to see it in my favorite IMAX, and it was big and huge and very pretty, and I really like the colors. Also, let's talk about the music in the movie, because that was another reason I was really excited about it, was it was going to be a musical. Now, it's a jukebox musical, and also a lot of the songs they pick, I was kind of surprised by like how not well known that they are, because certain other song choices in the marketing of this one and in the first movie were like pretty like well-known songs. Joaquin Phoenix is not a good singer. Usually I am a defender of bad singing because I feel like it just sounds more genuine. You know, when I hear like a real singer go up and sing a song, I'm like, pish posh, like that's not a real person. But when I hear like something like Big Mouth, where the animated characters are like singing the songs voiced by comedians, they're not good singers, and I'm like, well, but I feel for you more because I'm also not able to hit that note, so I get you, and I get your struggle more. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix's singing performance I didn't really like at all. Sometimes I felt like it was altered, sometimes I felt like I couldn't understand what he was saying. Again, it's another one where I'm gonna have to rewatch the movie, but there was just really no songs in this movie that I felt like, oh, when the soundtrack comes out, I'm putting that on my Spotify, like, let's go. Even Lady Gaga, like, don't get me wrong, I think she did a good job, much better than Joaquin Phoenix, especially singing wise, obviously, but nothing here was like, oh, I'm writing home about that. That was one of my favorite scenes. Like, there was no point in this film that quite touched how I felt during the talk show scene at the end of Joker. My favorite scene in the movie was in the court sequence of the film, where we get the little person from the first movie that was like his friend who witnessed him killing his other buddy. He testifies on the stand. He really tries to make an emotional appeal to Arthur, and I really bought that, and I thought that was really well done. I loved his performance. I loved how it affected Joaquin Phoenix in that scene, and it was probably the most poignant scene in the movie. Rewatching the first one, I kind of realized that this movie really isn't deep. No, he's just a psycho because he's crazy. Like, oh, it has a lot to say about mental health. No, he's just crazy. This one had even less to say about real themes because it's spending way more time just talking about the first movie. Like, you guys don't understand, he's not actually cool, okay? Like, don't go kill anybody. I feel very similarly to this that I feel about Megalopolis, even though I think this is a lot better. I appreciate how ambitious this movie is. I appreciate the big swings that it takes. I appreciate how they really try to artsy-fartsy up the superhero genre. Those are the best parts about the movie, I think. I just think that Todd Phillips is not a good writer and shouldn't write his own movies. That being said, I really did like this movie, though. I had a really good time. I thought it was interesting. I thought that it was beautiful to look at. It didn't feel like it was too long, and I respect a lot of the decisions that were made. I'm going to be on the high end on this one. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out other reviews of mine, because it's heating up. We're getting into award season here. Like, comment, subscribe, and why don't you guys tell me what your favorite villain movie is. Like, super villain movie. I recently rewatched Megamind. I like that a lot. Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Blog is a personal favorite of mine. I recently rewatched The Suicide Squad, which I love as well. Basically anything not made by Sony.